in having a meeting like this, one of the questions that one might want to ask is, why do we need to have this meeting? Why do we need this meeting? And the simple answer to that is that it is important that representation from across the whole of the community is there at all stages and levels in terms of the things that people want to do. And so specifically for academia, and I understand that most of the people in here are either PhD students, professors, or aspiring to be PhD students. And that's really a great thing to do, because I think for the colleagues in here, it would be very unusual if you called a meeting, a general meeting, and invited people to come, and then you had a meeting with people like this who are actually senior people in higher education. And really, that suggests that there is actually a deficit. So my approach to thinking about these sort of issues and responding to them is essentially by starting from the point of looking at the reality and looking at the data. Because you can argue with my views and my principles, but you can't really argue with data, because data doesn't lie. So my question always when people ask me that they want to do things, I say, show me the data. And of course people do say that you can manipulate data in various ways to show you what, but I'm talking about raw data here. And so you look at the numbers, and I'll tell you why that is important. Because if you look at the data will be able to show you whether there is actually a deficit. And in this case, if you actually look at the number of ethnic minority, particularly women who are doing PhDs, there is a huge deficit there. And once you understand what the deficit is, when you try to do something, then at least you know when the dial moves, because the data again changes, and then the number changes. So it is very pleasing for me to see the large turnout here, because if you and I'm saying things here that I know that you're very familiar with. If you look at the representation of ethnic minorities or minoritized students in university, and that can go up to 10%, even higher than that. In some cases, way above that. But actually, when you look from undergraduate and then you look to PhD, the biggest drop actually, although I know the number of female professors who are ethnic minorities is actually very small. I'm not even sure what the number is.
No, I don't know. They're still
trying to get it to 100. It's about 20 or more.
No, it's more than it's going to be somewhere about 80.
Okay, about 80, yeah. Okay, so that's really a small number, because there's about 22,000.
It's less than 1%.
Yeah, less than 1%. But so we know that actually that is quite a challenging space. But actually, the biggest drop is between undergraduate and postgraduate. That's where the biggest drop actually occurs. And in my own subject, in chemistry, it is quite huge, and I think it's actually quite general. And of course, if you're going to keep that, and people often refer to the pipeline, if you're going to keep that pipeline flowing, then of course you need to look at that initial stage. And if you're going to get those that become lecturers, that actually become professors, they usually need to take that first step of doing a PhD or doing some postgraduate studies. And of course, then the question there is whether everybody has got the information that they need, because information is actually power here, whether they have the networks that they need. Because often you need somebody to say to somebody else that I know this individual who's going to be a very good student. I mean, higher education is not a huge community, but it's very networked. And unless you are actually benefiting from those networks, for somebody to put in a good word for you, to sort of recommend you to somebody else, unless you're aware of those networks and you're that way networked. I'm not saying that it is impossible for you to succeed, but it just makes it a little bit harder to do that. And I have a very clear understanding that some sections of the community can be disadvantaged in that way. And I think the people who are sitting in here belong, unfortunately, to that group. And for me, that's why today is really important. But I really do not want so much to focus on the barriers and the challenges, because I know that those exist. I want to focus more of what you'd like to do, what you can do, and what the future can be for you. Because it's quite clear to me that even when the statistics show us that there are deficits, that doesn't tell your story. That is not your story. Your story is still yet to be told. And you have a huge amount of control in terms of what your story will be. And so the statistics should not define what you do or what you become or the decisions that you make. And so at that point, I suggest that actually you have relative freedom in terms of what you do, and you're really very much then, what happens next is determined by your ambitions. And I have something that people always remember me saying, is that the best way of making sure that nothing happens is to do nothing. If you do something, something might happen. And I think you have done something by coming here today. You have no clue where this is going to go. And really it is for you to decide how you're going to proceed, how you process the information that you have received today, and the next steps that you're going to make. Yes, the networking, yes, the information, that's going to be very, very helpful. And I don't know of anybody who's been successful in life, whether they are a politician or a sports person or an academic, who has not had somebody else hold their hand. So we all need somebody to hold our hand. We all need somebody to mentor. I mean, I am considered, with others here, being fairly senior in late career, but I still have people I go to when I want to sign things, and I have people who held my hand all along. And there are people here who I'm sure will want to hold those who are thinking about PhDs hand and help you along. But despite all of that, at the end of the day, you have essentially to do it. And I have always been clear that when I'm talking to a group like the one here, it is never really about ability. Because clearly those sitting here are amongst the best of your own generation. So it's not about ability, but it's about seizing those opportunities. It is about actually having the support that you need, and then being able to do what you want to do. So I do hope that today will have been very, very useful to you in the decisions that you make here at the University of Sheffield. Of course, we, in the work that I lead and the work that Amark and others lead, we are very aware that representation is quite low in certain parts of our university. And the reason why we want representation to be higher is not because it is a good thing to do, or it's the fair thing to do. Of course, that is correct. That is the case. But it's actually about being the best that we can be. Because I believe that a team that works at the highest level of performance has to be a diverse team, and has to be an inclusive team that actually includes the community, that has the face of the community. And so for us here at Sheffield, I always say to my colleagues that if we are not having a full representation here, if we are not having this X number of female professors, we can't multiply, I'm sorry to say this several times over, we are actually not performing as best as we can. So there are probably things that you need to do, but actually the higher education sector needs you. It needs you to make those next steps if that's what you want to do, and to then, of course, excel and do whatever you want to do. So anyway, I hope today has been good, and I look forward when it's possible hearing what the next steps might be post this excellent meeting. So thank you very much.